I'll tell you what, there could be a few fights in week 11 of the NFL because we've got some spicy fixtures to kick off this week. Now, the big game, the early game, is the Eagles versus the Commanders in a divisional clash with two quarterbacks who, again, have been very impressive this season, one more than the other. But Jaden Daniels hit a little bit of a blip with the Commanders when it all looks so good. And the Eagles just finished demolishing another divisional rival in the Cowboys. How do we see this one going down, Mr. Greenwood?
I think this is going to be the game that absolutely cements the Commanders this season and cements the quarterback, the rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels as the offensive rookie of the year. I think if he has a massive game in prime time against Jalen Hurts, another fantastic quarterback, if he has a big game, and I can see it happening, the Commanders can win this division and go all the way into the playoffs. The Commanders, obviously, last week against the Steelers had the opportunity. Jaden Daniels had the opportunity to get the job done. He was given the chance with 2 minutes with less than 2 minutes on the clock against the Steelers to march down the field, and he just didn't get the job done. At home as well, you want to be in that situation as a quarterback.
Yeah.
But looking ahead, the Eagles obviously demolished the Cowboys. The Washington Commanders are a much better defensive unit and offensive unit than the Dallas Cowboys. Terry McLaurin looks special. Okay.
No.
They did miss Brian Robinson in the backfield kind of last week, but they still managed to rush the ball fairly okay. And Jaden Daniels, we know how good he is with his legs, so hopefully they can get him going. So for me, I just think that want to win and that determination to win and that need to win for the Washington Commanders, they haven't had much to shout about recently until this season, and I think that is really going to drag them over the line in this one, mate. What do you think? Eagles, Commanders?
I think it's going to be a very interesting game to the very least. I think a big talking point is going to be who is going to keep the ball safe. We saw Jalen Hurts against Cowboys lose the ball quite a few times. So Barkley lose the ball as well. You can't be losing balls and turnovers and things like that, which we saw Jalen Hurts do at the start of the season. He's been pretty good in the last few weeks. But in games like this, where it's going to be high octane, it's going to be very tough, you need to keep the ball, you need to keep drives alive. And I think that's going to be a big thing for Mr. Hurts to do. I think, though, the pipping point is that Eagles D has turned up in parts of the season. That secondary's finally learned how to catch a ball, finally learned how to cover people and do it without inducing penalties. Whereas that Commanders D, in parts, has looked pretty soft. And I think if we can get the Eagles running routes, getting in between, AJ Brown, get the ball in his hand, Devonta Smith, and Mr. Barkley, I think that three-pronged attack is going to be very dangerous against the Commanders. As good as Jaden Daniels is, I genuinely think this could be the start of a decline, unfortunately, for the Commanders with the fixtures and difficulty that they have coming up, unfortunately.
Interesting take, mate. Obviously, like you mentioned, they've still got some hard teams to play. They've got the Eagles to play twice, obviously. So obviously this game, and then obviously the last one of the last games of the season as well in week 16, I believe. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these massive kind of quarterbacks, with very different and very unique stories, kind of tee off. Another game with two quarterbacks with a lot of history. A game that we're going to love to talk about, mate. A game that we're going to absolutely love to watch. I'm already getting goosebumps just describing it. Okay. Joshua Hines Allen versus Patrick Kermit Mahomes. 15 versus the number of Josh Allen.
17.
17. 15 versus 17. Add them together, mate. And it's fireworks. Always fireworks between these two. So who you got in this one? Bills or the Chiefs?
I just don't want the Chiefs to win. But the Bills can never seem to get over the line against the Chiefs. They've left it with 20 seconds on the clock. They left it with 10 seconds on the clock. They left it with a winning field goal to get them through. And they still cannot beat the Chiefs. Even when it matters in conference games and championship games, they still cannot do it. But this weekend is going to be the time. This is going to be it. When Josh Allen hasn't got everything that he's had before, he's still going to come out the top against the Chiefs. And I think the one reason he's going to be able to do is for something that he set a record for last week, and that is rushing touchdowns. He's now, I think he's tied second for rushing touchdowns for the franchise of the Bills. He's got to use his legs. He's got to extend these plays. I think he's been a little bit careless with the ball in the last few weeks, partly due to this need to force the ball down the field and, keep these drives forcing and keep them going forward. Again, because of sort of the wide receiver issues that they've got. But keep that ball to yourself, Mr. Allen. Get your legs pumping and just keep getting those first downs and kill some time off the clock. The best thing you can do is keep the ball in your hands and keep it away from the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what the Broncos did. That's what got them so close to victory. And I think that's the only way you can stop 15 from balling out, because every time he touches ball, it's most likely going to be a touchdown.
Well, maybe not this season. He has been pretty shit this year. Let's not beat around the bush. All right, I'm the biggest one to sing Mahomes' praises, but I'm also the biggest one to call him out on his flaws. And this season, he's been absolutely dog water. On the flip side of that, Josh Allen, mate, you have sung his praises there, and absolutely rightly so. He has had, I'm going to say it, an MVP caliber season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he continues to lead this team in the way that he has been doing, carrying the team absolutely on his back, there's a chance that they can go and keep going all the way to the bowl game. I'm saying it. But to do that, you got to get past 15, like you mentioned. You got to get past Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be there in the playoffs, regardless of what happens on Sunday night. But this is going to be a massive psychological game for Josh Allen. If he can get over this hurdle, I can see nothing stopping him. I think he's going to have to lead on his rushing attack, though. He can't do it all himself because, like we mentioned before, the Chiefs' defense is pretty good. They've got a pretty decent secondary, and with Chris Jones on that defensive line, he does kind of stuff the run more often than not. But James Cook is going to have a big game as well. Yeah. We've mentioned, obviously, the wide receiver core isn't as fantastic as it'd like to be, but Josh Allen loves using his running backs kind of in the passing game as well. So get the ball to Cook, get those chains moving, and potentially get the job done against 15.
100%. And I think that is going to be the key, isn't it? Whose ground game is going to establish? The Chiefs have really struggled. But then last week, screen game absolutely saved them. These dump-offs to, Kareem Hunt has been a really big factor in how they've managed to succeed.
On IR, though, now. On IR.
I know. So it's a tough game to be, facing off against each other. But we're Bills Mafia. We want them to win because I can't deal with an unbeaten Patrick Mahomes season and a three-peat. We cannot be dealing with that.
Actually, right, I've not actually thought about that. I'm not comprehending that. Imagine if he goes, what would he be? In the regular season, 17-0, and then how many playoff games would he have? He'd have 1, 2.
It's 3, isn't it?
He'd go 20-0 and a three-peat. That would actually be horrid.
There'd be some serious conversations after that, so at the very least.
They have not lost in 360, somewhat.
And do you know the craziest stat? They're undefeated still when they're fucking down in the third, fourth quarter.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If that does not sum up how perfect you need to be. I know that Bills D's banged up, but get those bad boys back in. Tape them up. This is the time. Give them whatever shot they need. This is the game where you turn up. It's legacy building. It's legacy creating. You got to come home. And if you, as Granit Xhaka would say, it's not ballet. You come here and you play. This is football. You need to turn up and win.
Absolutely, mate. But obviously, Steve Spagnuolo for the Chiefs has created some defense. Yeah. That's a legacy in itself. That doesn't get talked about enough. Andy Reid gets all the credits, but 100%. That defense that Spagnuolo's created is absolutely incredible. Legacy Mahomes, legacy Kelce, legacy Jones. Need I go on, sir? Need I go on?
100%. And we'll speak about two legacy quarterbacks now in Mr. Aaron Rodgers and Mr. Joe Flacco, both at the helm of respective teams that have been very up and down this season, say the very least. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, last week or the week before, they pummeled the Texans. And they come in this week and they looked absolutely awful against the Cardinals. And you got the Colts, sit Anthony Richardson. Before that, Flacco was balling out and he's come back and he don't know what to do with the football apart from turn it over. We had a good conversation about rookies versus veterans, and it seems very outdated now because the veterans have forgotten how to play the game. But in this one, it's a salute to both men, first of all, to be at their age and still be playing the sport and delivering to an extent. Where do you see this one going in terms of the result?
In terms of the result?
Very Gary Lineker, that one, wasn't it?
Fantastic punditry happening. Over to you, Elliot. Thank you very much, sir. I think these two quarterbacks are right. It's going to be a bit of a take, this one, mate. Right, just stay with me. I've just put it on the spot. Right, these two quarterbacks are like vampires. Okay, listen, hear me out. just absolutely sucking the life out of their fan bases, sucking the joy out of their fan bases, sucking all passion that anyone who watches their teams has for the game, and that's because they're in the twilight of their career. Boom. Look at
Oh, that's
that.
a good one,
Read it and
that.
weep,
Good
boy. Read
one,
it and
that.
weep. Aaron Rodgers has been trash. Joe Flacco is trash. Okay. Devontae Adams has come in. He's a little bit trash. All right.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that these are old players playing for teams that have old records of being absolutely horseshit. Okay,
Yeah.
the Indianapolis Colts have been nothing since kind of Manning won them the Super Bowl. They've been nothing for a long time. Obviously, since Andrew Luck retired at the age of like 28, which has been a massive shock. I used to love that play, watching that man play football. The nicest quarterback you'll ever meet. And since then, that franchise has been absolutely dog. Praying for a number one overall pick again, and then you get your quarterback who you think he's going to carry you through some tough times, who you think he's going to rush all around and throw the ball deep, and he looks like he can throw the ball deep, and then he taps out. He ain't got CTE, he ain't got any head trauma, he's just an absolute pussy-o. And on the flip side of that, Aaron Achilles Rodgers has been dog water himself. Obviously, you've asked me to pick a result. No one wins in this one. The only thing that happens is people watch the game and they get bored and they lose and they turn it off. Draw. It's going to be a draw.
Double overtime. Double overtime is the call by Mr. Greenwood. If that doesn't show the boring bowl to be what it is, then I pretty much agree. But you know what? That being said, that Pats game, the Pats Tennessee game, that was a crazy game when we said it was going to be awful. Maybe history repeats itself. Maybe this goes down as an all-timer.
I said it was going to be good. You absolute joker. I said it was going to be a shit game because teams were bad. It was going to be good. All right, I called that.
Does this one fall in the same category?
No, this is a bad team. These are bad, boring teams. There's no way that this falls in that category.
But overall, it'd be very, very interesting to again see how these perform. And I think looking forward, it's more so about the players and the personnel. I know we've talked about the actual individuals, but like I said, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson's come back into it. Breece Hall looked like probably the best running back in the league for the first 2 weeks and has really, really struggled. The ability is there. We've seen these teams do it. Why is the consistency so up and down? I mean, Flacco balled out. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor all had unbelievable games this season. But again, just cannot produce it on a week-by-week basis.
And I think at this point, you've got to look at the culture within the organisation, okay? Yeah. The Jets have got a culture of losing, a culture of being dog water. And as well, people forget, they fired the head coach not too long ago. They're still trying to re-establish themselves as a team. That takes time. That usually takes an off-season. So don't expect many massive things from the New York Jets this season. But the Colts, man, they are bad. They're really, really bad. And I didn't think they were going to be this bad. This is the thing. Pittman Jr. is supposed to be quite a good player. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor has been paid big amounts of money, and last season they won a lot of games because of him. Even though he's kind of injured for the first part of the season, when he came back, he was superb. I just think, mate, sometimes some teams aren't meant to win, and I think these are kind of those teams that aren't meant to win. They're just meant to turn up, maybe win eight games at most in a season. You're talking drafting from pick 8 to pick 15. And I think that's been the story for the New York Jets and the Indianapolis Colts going forward.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the Colts were in the playoffs last season. I think, from the position they were with Anthony Richardson down and then Gardner Minshew, how he came in, I think that's a really tough thing for the franchise and the fans to take. When you've seen your team, somehow deliver and pull through, it's tough to go back to a way where you can't see any direction for where your team's going, to say the very least. And I think, like you said, that's been shared by both of these miserable franchises at this point. But hopefully this week, we'll both be happy. Less so yourself, but I think with myself, I think the Niners versus the Seahawks, a divisional clash, just as a final word on it, the Niners better win. I can't be dealing with any losses this week. And the Niners are going to win because Brock Purdy is a special man, and he always delivers when it comes to the Seahawks. You mentioned before on the podcast that you're not too confident about the Cowboys, howsoever. Has that confidence changed, dithered, withered?
No, it's not changed. It's got even smaller, if anything. CJ Stroud, the money line I'm going to set for him is he's going to throw over 349.5 yards, okay? And he's going to
Big day out.
He's going to have a total of over 3.5 touchdowns. Mark my words. Run rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns, and he's going to be sacked a total of one time. That's it. He's going to throw the rock. He's going to sling the rock. Trayvon Diggs is going to get beaten. Hopefully, Deron Bland comes back. Even if he does, he's going to get beaten. Micah Parsons, he's going to get the one sack. He's going to do nothing else. And Cooper Rush, he's going to throw 3 interceptions. Trey Lance is going to come in for one more drive. And he's going to be unbelievable. And he's going to carry us to the Super Bowl. Mark my words.
You heard it here first, guys. If you're on GamStop, that is a winning ticket, if you ask me. So forget it. Doesn't matter if they're not letting you put any money on. Make sure you find someone to put that bet on. That is money right there, people. You heard
free
it.
Money.
Here,
That's free. That is free.
Free money.
Take it out.
Free money.
Give it to the kids, man.
And we'll thank you guys for joining us this week as we talked all things Week 11. Please join us next week when we'll see how bad our takes were, and you can let us know how bad they were as well. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube, and join us on the TikTok as well. And we shall see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast.